A Messerschmitt Bf110 fighter plane takes off from a Nazi airbase near Munich. Rudolf Hess sat in the director's chair. No one else followed him. He flew alone through the dark night in the fog. Using only nautical charts and charts, he steered the plane over the Rhine and then across the North Sea to England. Hess also often maneuvered to avoid British air attacks. What's the full story? Let's watch this video until it's finished. Before watching this video, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and press the bell button to get interesting stories from world-famous figures. On Saturday morning, May 10, 1941, Hess ran into trouble in the skies over Scotland. Gas ran out 12 miles from the finish line. He had to jump out with a parachute. Meanwhile, in the countryside, a farmer named David McLean is shocked to see a plane burning in his field. Then someone parachutes. The man introduced himself as Captain Alfred Horn. "I have important news for Duke Hamilton," Hess told the Scottish farmer, as quoted OneThursday.com. David McLean later told his mother about the incident. The lady immediately prepared hot tea for her poor guest. Little did they realize that the man they had brought with them was no ordinary German Luftwaffe pilot. Rudolf Hess was the deputy leader of the Nazi leader Adolf Hitler. Hess joined the NSDAP in 1920. The man was with Hitler in the coup at Beer Hall, even imprisoned in Landsberg, where he helped edit the manuscript of Mein Kampf. As co-leader, he was third in line to the Nazi leadership after Hitler and Hermann Göring. Rudolf Hess later claimed he was on a peacekeeping mission in Scotland just weeks before Hitler launched his invasion of the Soviet Union. As quoted by Smithsonian.com, Hess plans to visit Dungivel House, the residence of Douglas Hamilton, Duke of Hamilton, on Wednesday, the 9th of May 2018. They met at the 1936 Berlin Olympics. He hoped to make contact with prominent figures in England who, unlike Winston Churchill, wanted to make peace with the Nazis. Hess thought Hamilton could pair him with King George V, and remove the English King Winston Churchill so Britain would make peace with Germany, and unite as one power against the Soviet Union. However, Hess misunderstood. Hamilton, then working at a British Air Force RAF base, was committed to his country and people's fight against Germany. Mission failed miserably. When Hamilton met the next day, Hess's pleas were completely ignored. He also denied from the start that Hitler had any knowledge of his mission. Britain did not want to offer diplomatic instruments. Rudolf Hess was even thrown into prison for a broken heart. On June 16, 1941, Hess committed suicide by throwing himself down the stairs. During the war, Hess was imprisoned by the British. He was imprisoned in several places including the Tower of London and a military hospital. If it's not psychiatrists wanting to probe the minds of Nazis, then it's just the Secret Service wanting to get information from people who visited them in prison. Rudolf Hess had recently returned to Germany, specifically Nuremberg, for a post-war trial in October 1945, where he fled from executioners and was sentenced to life in prison. He spent the remainder of his long life, over 40 years, as prisoner number 7 in Spandau. He is still there, although many other Nazis were later released. His imprisonment ended when he was 93 years old. Not because it's free. Hess was found hanged in August 1987. Stuck in the lighthouse in the Park building in August 1987. According to the official version, he committed suicide. However, many doubt this. Hess Wolf's son believes his father was killed by British intelligence agents. Apparently he is silent. But Hess's death does not end the question. Did he really go to England of his own accord? Or was he just a messenger for the Nazi bosses? News of Rudolf Hess's fate in England hit Berlin like lightning in broad daylight. The Nazis immediately began to sever their former leader's ties to the regime, let alone to Hitler. You will wash your hands. The Germans were told that Hess was suffering from mental breakdowns and hallucinations. Joseph Goebbels, a Nazi propagandist familiar with such tactics, feared that the British might use Hess as part of a campaign to break German morale or attack in the middle of a battle. In a diary entry dated the 14th of May 1941, Goebbels expressed concern that the Hess case would make Germans wonder how someone so stupid could be a deputy of the FJHRER. But over time, their anger grew. Although Rudolf Hess was in a high-profile position, his influence within the Nazi hierarchy declined dramatically from 1941 onwards, leading one to speculate that his actions were a way to win back Hitler's support. Various theories have emerged. Quite a few suspect that the botched mission was carried out with Hitler's knowledge. Hess realized that if he failed, the Nazi leader would deny involvement. In 2011, Matthias Uhl of the German Institute of History in Moscow found some evidence to support the claim. The morning after Hess flew to England, his aide, Karl-Heinz Pinch, briefed Adolf Hitler. UHL finds a report with Pinch's description of the encounter in the National Archives of the Russian Federation. Pinch claims that Hitler took the report in stride. Arrangements were made with the British side prior to the flight, he wrote. Pinch added that Hess's mission was to use all the means at his disposal to achieve the goal. Namely the formation of a German military alliance with Britain against Russia. Or at least make sure Britain is on the neutral side. However, other witnesses said otherwise. Albert Speer, a Nazi insider, said that Hitler was furious. The Führer feared that England would take advantage of the importance of the case. Who would believe me if I said Hess didn't fly there for me, says Albert Speer in his book Inside the Third Reich. He even points out that Hitler wished Hess would be wounded and killed in the Baltic Sea rather than be captured by the British. Speer admitted talking to Hess 25 years after the solo flight incident while the two were imprisoned in Spandau. Hess convinced me that the idea was sparked by a dream involving supernatural forces, he said. Although Rudolf Hess is now dead, he occupies a special position in neo-Nazi circles. In fact, in 2011, the grave of Hitler's deputy was dismantled. Later, the bones were exhumed, cremated, and the ashes scattered at sea. also with his former prison in Spandau. Everything was demolished to prevent them from becoming monuments of neo-Nazi extremism. Apart from Rudolf Hess's violent actions, there were a number of historic moments on May 10. In 1994, Nelson Mandela was sworn in as President of South Africa. On May 10, 1872, Victoria Woodhull became the first woman to run for President of the United States. He's more than a century ahead of Hillary Clinton.